In this video, we will be looking at calculating slope. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to find the slope of a line given the graph of a line or given the coordinates of 2 points on the line. You should also be able to use slope to determine if lines are parallel or perpendicular. So let's take a look at what this means. Let's remember that slope, or the rate of change, is when we have a change in our y over the change in x. This is also written, and this is the one we're going to talk about a little bit today in class, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Also the vertical over the horizontal, up and down over right. So what we want to take a look at today is labeling our points. When we have 2 points, how we can find the slope is we need to use this formula. And we'll come back to using this a little bit in class, but what we want to just focus on in our video today is labeling those points and knowing what these variables mean so that we can substitute them in. So what we want to look at is we have 2 points. This right here is my first point. And this is my second point. I'm given 2 points, and now I want to label. So remember that our coordinate points, we have an x coordinate and a y coordinate. So we call this 3. This is my x with a small 1, the one I get from the first points, my first x, comma, my 2 is my y1, my first x and my first y. Over here I have my x2, it's the second x, this one's the first one, my 3, my negative 1 is the second one, comma, y2. So both of them are x, y, but this is my first one, and this is my second one. And notice that corresponds with my equation. We'll come back to the equation when we meet in class, but just so you see how we want to label these points, that's what we want to do. Let's take a quick review at increasing, decreasing, horizontal, and vertical lines. So if we recall that increasing lines have positive slope, remember that this is from left to right. When we travel from left to right, we go up. Okay. A decreasing line has negative slope. Same thing from left to right, but this time we're going down. Decreasing lines have negative slope. Recall that my horizontal line, or constant, has 0 slope. Okay, there's no change here. I have 0 slope. And my vertical line has undefined slope. The vertical line has undefined slope. And these two, it can be helpful to remember. These acronyms, we've talked about this before. HOI, H stands for horizontal. 0 is 0 slope. And a y means it's a y equals equation. Y equals a number. And my VUX corresponds to my vertical line. It looks like a vertical line. I have undefined slope. And it's an x equals graph. So those acronyms can help you remember which one is which. Let's look at some examples. We're going to calculate the slope of each line. So in this example, we're going to look at number 1. In this example, I'm given a line and I want to find the slope. So if I have a graph, graph here, I want to use the part of my equation, the part of my slope definition that talks about the change in y, the vertical over horizontal, the up down over the right. So here, when I take a look at this graph, the first thing you want to do is find any points, find any good intersection points on the graph. So I notice I have one here and I have one here. Notice how the graph touches across in the graph there. My line touches across in the graph. So I want to use those 2 points and calculate my slope. So remember, it's a change in y or up, down first. So I want to figure out how far I go up. And here I'm going to go up 1 over. I go to the right 2, so that's a positive slope. So for this one, the slope is equal to 1 over 2. Let's look at my second example here. I see here when I look at this graph that from left to right it is decreasing. So I know that my slope is going to be negative. Decreasing means I have a negative slope. Going back to my first example, I noticed that I have increasing, so it was positive slope. So I put my negative down, and I want to find 2 points just like I did for the first equation. You always need 2 points, no matter if you're looking at a graph or you have 2 points, you're given them. So I have one here that crosses nicely, and I also see there's one right here. So now I want to figure out how I get from this point to this point. I see that I can go up 2, and that's going to be my numerator. And I see that I go over 2, and that's going to be my denominator. And I know that negative 2 over 2 is equal to negative 1. So my slope is equal to negative 1. And that is how you would find your slope from a graph. Please bring your notes to class. You will continue to work on this and take a look at how we can find our slope from those 2 points together.